It is 8 a.m. in Dallas. So, hey, we got to call you out right now. Congratulate you because this past week was a major week for you. You were inducted into the NSA Hall of Fame. It's called the CPAE Award. That is very significant. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But
Yeah, I was super excited.
Yeah, you also took home other hardware. I mean, you kind of swept the awards.
I did. I got a fantastic award from the Power Women of the National Speakers Association for the work that they believe I do to help women in the area, and as well as the Chairman's Award. Now, but the Chairman's Award really belongs to the two of us because that was for all the work we did on really promoting the conference and getting people there.
No. You did the work. I was just helping you out, along with a cadre of others in the background. So hey.
Yeah.
Anyway, congratulations, Hall of Fame. That is a significant award, significant recognition, and very well deserved. So with that, we should probably start the show, right?
I think we should probably start the show. We got some good stuff to talk about this
morning. Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is Sales Logic, the show where strategies discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to be more effective in the world of sales. Mark, we already got a great audience chiming in with us this morning. I'm just going to give a brief overview of how the show works, and then Mark will give us what is on tap for today. Every week we come to you with a really power-packed show. We start off with a question from you, the audience. So if you ever want to participate, and we hope that you do, just submit a question to saleslogicpodcast.com, put it in the chat, or email Mark or myself. We cover a hot topic, recommend a book, and because we want you to get return on investment, you walk away with a lightning round, those things that you can implement immediately. So, Mark, what are we going to cover this morning?
Well, this morning we got a great topic, and it is leading a frontline sales team. You know, we've talked about leaders before, but this is, when you're in the trenches with them. So that's the topic. And the question comes from Anna in Texas. She asks, I have 2 superstars, 2 underperformers on my team. What's the best way to manage these 4 out of the 7 I manage in total? Great question, because again, not everybody is cut of the same cloth. So how do we balance our time?
Yeah, it's interesting because, Mark, I'm sure you deal with this question all the time. I was on my way to the airport earlier this week talking with a client, and this was exactly what we were talking about. How do we kind of even things out? My first question is, I want to understand, and I hope that you understand, why are they underperforming? You've heard me say this a million times, but I'm going to say it again. You have to understand if you have a discipline issue or a skill issue. If you have a discipline issue, the fix is easy. They don't belong on the team. Most likely an underperformer has a skill issue. They either they're not implementing their skills correctly, or they don't have enough consistent behavior and activity to produce the result they need.
Yeah. How much skill development, though, should the frontline leader be responsible for? Because here's the question I'm going to ask. And this came up. Because I had a similar question asked to me. They said, I got a great person. Long term, I think they're going to be good. But I just don't have the bandwidth to be able to develop them now. Should I cut them loose? Wow. Think about that one. What's your take?
My take on that is, what are you doing that you don't have the bandwidth to develop your people? I mean, that's my feeling is, I don't understand as a sales leader, your job is to produce people that are as good or better than you. So a lot of times frontline sales professionals are running their own pipeline. They've got their own portfolio, so to speak. But your time is better spent on developing the people around you. So I would just really beg to differ. And if you don't want to do that, if you don't feel that that's your priority, I would really question whether I want to be in sales leadership. Because Mark, the big things that tip me off there, I have somebody basically with the right attitude, the right basic foundation of what it takes to be a good salesperson. They're just missing some of the skills. Now, you can supplement that with some training. You can use some of your high performers to mentor them, but that's your job.
Oh, I love how you responded to that, because that's how I responded to him. Because I made the comment to him. I said, look, it's your job to invest in your people, just as you expect your people to invest in their customers. And you expect your people to put their customers first, company second, and themselves third. Okay, for you, it's you're putting your people first because they're your customers, then the company, and then you. And that means you've got to take the time to develop them. And I love that idea that you said, matching people up with high performing people. In fact, it's one of the things I recommended to him. In fact, I'm having breakfast with the gentleman this week. I said, we're going to go through your team and we're going to take a look at who do we match up. Because what I found is he's got a couple high performers on his team. You match them up with other people. And you know what? The high performers are going to get jazzed because now they have the ability to kind of coach and help guide and help support, help be a peer to somebody else in the organization. It's going to lift them up. Everybody wins. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself when it comes to developing people.
No, you definitely don't. But you're responsible to make sure that people are being developed. I love what you said about the fact that, we want our team members to invest in our customers. That question begins with, what are you doing to invest in your team members? Now, let's flip this around a little bit, because in this instance, this is a sales leader reaching out to you. How lucky are these underperformers that even realizes that she's not spending enough time with them? For most of us, sales leaders suck. There aren't very many good sales leaders out there, and they don't even care that they're not developing us. They don't even care. So if you're somebody who's listening to this and you're not lucky enough to have a sales leader who has you top of mind, don't give up. Your sales leader isn't the only person that needs to develop you, and it's your life, it's your career. Put yourself in the driver's seat and find the mentors that you need, both inside and outside your company, to develop you.
I'm glad you just kind of spelled it out the way you saw it. They suck, because you're right. And this is so true. This is when I see sales teams and they say, well, my manager isn't investing in me, and I get this comment all the time. And I go, who cares? I mean, it sucks, but you can still develop yourself. It's interesting. We have a lot of people who listen, whether it be on Saturday mornings when we do the show, or they catch the audio on the podcast. And what are they doing? And they're doing very intentionally because they don't have a manager that's willing to lead them. So they check us out to get insights. You're right. This has to be a two-way street. And you know what I found very, very interesting is when a leader sees it, their people are starting to invest in their own development. It's amazing how the leader begins to invest in their own development. And a rising tide lifts all boats. You've got to create a culture of continuous learning, continuous growth. It can't stop just because, you came through the 2-week onboarding, you're now fully trained, go out and sell. Doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Bill Shaw makes such a great point here. He said, Bill Snow, sorry. Owners put frontline sales leaders in a bad spot when they make them a player coach. They absolutely do. It's one of the most difficult jobs I ever had, was being a player coach. But if you, being a player at the same time that you're a coach gives you unbelievable empathy for what your team is going through. You're facing the exact same things they're doing. And one of the greatest ways to train people is not in the classroom. It's to take them with you on calls. It's to let them watch you do what you do. How do you prospect? How do you make those initial contacts? How do you handle a failed sales call? What do you do? They'll learn quite a bit from bringing them along for the ride. But you're right, it's one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. But when you can develop people as a player coach, you have mastered the art of sales leadership.
But I'll tell you what, I was in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was a player coach. I was a quota carrying sales leader because I had a quota, I had my own accounts, and I had to manage a team. And let me tell you something, that was difficult. And looking back, there were more than a few times at the end of the quarter when I was focused more on my number than I was on my people's number. Ooh, that's it. Now let's come back and let's talk about this question, because you got 2 high performers, 2 low performers. And, Anna really asked a great question. She's got 7 people. How do you divide your time? And the easy advice I always share is make sure you invest in your top performers. Because I always say, if I can take a top performer and increase their performance by 50%, wow, or even 25%, I've really moved the needle. If I take a low performer, increase their performance by 25 or 50%, it moves a little bit. So I'm always going to invest in the top performers. I don't know if you feel the same way or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, though, as a sales leader, and I think, Anna, what you need to be really careful of is you need to, I love the fact that you're asking this question, you need to lead them differently. As a top performer, one of the biggest mistakes I see sales leaders make is they invest their time not only equally across their performers, but the exact same way. So with top performers, figure out what investing in them needs. My top performers in my last sales coaching position needed me to remove obstacles for them. We would get a lot of initiatives coming down from corporate, things that were interfering with their ability to be successful and their ability to blow past their goals. What they needed me to do was block and tackle so they could get across the finish line. They didn't need me going on calls with them. They didn't need me opening doors. However, every once in a while too, my job was to be the face of the company. So they would say, could you go to this charity event? Could you meet this person? Could you make an introduction? They would look through my contacts or my membership, or they'd need me to go play golf with somebody. Like, my top performers were telling me what they needed versus me spending time with underperformers. That was really about me very much skill developing. I can't remember who developed the model of situational leadership, but it's the quadrants of 1, 2, 3, and 4, and whether people need to be micromanaged, they need to be supported, or whether they're ultimately your peer. But you really need to look at that.
This is situational leadership, Ken Blanchard.
Thank you.
Excellent model. Hey, this comment by Adam is so spot on, because he says, hey, big difference between privately held and publicly traded. Won't try to read.
Yeah, so.
And, my background is all in publicly traded companies, and I know exactly where you're coming from, Adam. Because again, you get down to that week 12, week 13, and I'll tell you what, you got to deliver that number for the shareholders. Now, conversely, I work now with a lot of privately held companies, and what I find very interesting is that they're not public, but the private investors, they still want that quarterly earnings. They still want that thing. The only deviation may be if it's a family-owned entity. Then they really truly play they play a generational game. But here's where I'm coming back to. I firmly believe the customer still comes first. I will fall on my sword and miss a number if it's the right thing for that customer. And that has put me in a bad situation in a number of situations. But I will do that because, as a sales leader, as a salesperson, you have to play the long game. Once we start playing the short game, our integrity and our trust fall by the wayside.
Yeah. I love this comment too, but here's my advice on that. And this is how I managed it. I was going to get slapped for missing the quarterly number. I was going to get shot for missing the annual number. So this is what I'm talking about with block and tackle. My job was to get slapped for my team on the quarterly number, because all too often, quarterly and short-term goals are completely out of alignment with what you have to accomplish long-term. And so with my team, I made it very clear, we're blowing past the annual number. Do not work about quarterly. I will go to Mecca corporate office. They can beat me up a little bit. That's my job. And at the end of the year, we'll be standing on the stage. We'll be getting the trophy. And you do what you need to do. And that I really feel like is a job of a sales leader. How do you help people be successful and be successful for the long term. And a lot of that is making sure that they're able to do what they need to do in order to ultimately hit the number.
One of the things that I saw was a terrific example, and I then began to apply it, was one time, the team I was on, I was a salesperson. We were falling short. And I watched my manager walk in to the office and literally get crucified for missing the quarterly number. But he did it to support his people, and it was the right thing. And I learned from that situation because just like you said, we missed the quarterly number, but we made the annual number. And what did that do? My view of my manager went through the roof.
Yeah.
I would walk through a wall for that individual because he fell on a sword for me, for our team. And that was a piece that I then took forward, and several times that I had to go through that same situation. But I learned that, you know what? I'll take the short-term fall. I'm gonna get hit. I'm gonna get hit hard, but it's going to help the team long term.
Yeah, and think about that as a sales professional too. I mean, you have to really understand what your company and what your leader cares about. I think one of the most difficult things about being in sales is that you get different goals constantly. I can't tell you how many times they would tell me to hit an annual number, and then some campaign would come out that if I focused on the campaign, I would never hit the annual number. And everybody would sit around and they would whine and they would complain about it. And my thought was, I need to figure out where the goalpost is, and I'm going towards the goalpost, and I'm not going to worry about anything else. Sure, do you get roughed up a little bit in the process? Absolutely. But the award you get on the back end. So if you're a sales leader, understand what corporate is looking for. Be really clear on the end of the day where the biggest trophy is, what they most want from you, and then align your team there. If you are not lucky enough to have an amazing sales leader, do that for yourself. Figure out in all the contradictory statements you are going to get, what's the one thing they really need you to do, and you focus razor-like on accomplishing that.
See, and again, that's a demonstrative act that you're doing that others around you are going to see. You stay focused. I too can relate to that. Here's your quota. And then various marketing teams would come out with this contest or this spiff and this stuff. And it's easy to start chasing the shiny object. And you get distracted and you lose focus. Sales is all about having focus. This, again, come back to Anna's question. I have two superstars. Focus on your two superstars. And I can't stress that enough. I'm not saying that at the expense. Well, I kind of am at the lower performers because they've, at the end of the day, your goal is to create people who can be promoted into other roles in the organization. Anna, what you want to do is you want to create your tree, your leadership tree. I tell this to young managers all the time. Your goal is to raise up people who wind up going on to bigger and better things. That's how you create your leadership tree. So Anna, that's where you got to be going. Wow, we've been kind of pinging around all over the place. We got some really in-depth conversation going on the chat line, but we need to talk about kind of the topic leading. I guess we have been leading a frontline sales team. What did you find to be the most difficult task when you were managing a frontline sales team?
Most difficult task I think that the most difficult task is, it was for me to figure out that spending time and investing in my team was the highest and best use of my time. And what I mean by that is my coaching and my time with sales calls were the priorities on my calendar. So if my executive called me and said, Meridith, I need to see you at 9:00, and I had a coaching call with you, Mark, to make sure that I said, I cannot meet with you at 9:00, then I'm prioritizing those people. That people watch your actions so much more than your words. And if I treated them as my boss versus the executives as my boss. I really needed to flip that around and focus my time and my energy. If they were happy and they were productive, that was the best way that I made sure we were successful. And ultimately, I looked like a rock star.
What you just said is so key. Leaders can say anything. Anybody can say anything. It's the actions that matter. And I've always said, you have to be careful of what's not said, because your people are reading into it. Your people are reading into what's not said. That was one of the challenges I had as a new manager and so forth, is I'd be communicating with my people and I thought they understood it, but everybody hears and responds and processes differently. And you have to take the time to be able to verify and authenticate as to whether or not that message, what the action is being understood and is going to be acted on. Big difference, because I found when I was leading a team, how I communicate with the team is one way, but how I communicate with each individual person, vastly different, because they understand, they listen, they learn differently.
Yeah, I think it's so important to figure out where everybody on your team is in the learning process. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in to work with sales leaders and they're managing high performers from a micromanagement standpoint. And they're just killing them. They're absolutely killing them. That's not what they need from you. And then they're not really providing any skill development. Again, I'm going to say you're underperformers. Is it a discipline issue or a skill issue? And if it's a discipline issue, you better have the guts to get them off the team, because they're going to kill you. But more often than not, I find it's a skill issue. People want to do a good job. They just don't know what to do or how to do it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, leading a team, in fact, it really takes us to the book we have today, The Energy Bus by John Gordon. I'll tell you what, this is a great read, because you really got to figure out, do you have the people in the right seats on the right bus? The Energy Bus by John Gordon. If you're a new leader, or if you've been a leader for years and you haven't read it, get the book. It's absolutely outstanding.
I haven't read that book in I really haven't probably even read that book in a couple of years. And when you put it up for the show today, I put it down as something I want to listen to again, because think about this. There's so little you can control in today's marketplace. So little. You want to get the best and the brightest on your team. Now, I know we're going to go into the lightning round. I want to quick read this comment from Mark Bergman, if that's okay, and just say that. Oops, I can't get it up there. There we go. This is an issue for anyone who leads a team. I would see the difference between good production, control-led teams, and those with weak leaders. You're absolutely right, Mark. I mean, leadership is so powerful and so important. But for anybody listening to this show who is not a sales leader, if you don't have a good one, you go find yourself a good one.
Hey, I can't talk about that enough. Absolutely. Hey, we've got a deal we're doing next week on the 20th from noon to 2. Want people to register. I just put the link up there. Let me kind of put it up there. There it is. Go to that link, get registered, because Mary and I are going to be talking about sales process and leadership from noon to 2 on the 20th. So get registered for that. Get signed up. It's free. We want you there on that. So, hey, let's go to the lightning round. You ready?
I'm ready.
Best practices for sales coaches. Go.
Number 1, make it a priority.
2, develop individual development plans for each of your people.
If you're going to develop other people, you need to have a coach yourself.
Understand your people both professionally and personally as to what their goals are.
Have an agenda for every coaching session. Make sure that people understand what's going to be expected of them when they come to a coaching session.
When you ask people to do something, follow up with them to ensure that they've done it. Unfortunately, a line really works. Inspect what you expect.
Let them lead the coaching session. Your reviews are a time when you tell them what to do. A coaching session is when they're coming to you for what they need from you.
Your people are going to learn more from what you don't say and your actions as they are from the words you actually do say.
I would say that use the art of the role play. God forbid I say a role play in this, but use the art of a role play in coaching sessions. It's one of the most powerful ways we help people do better.
Great. I'll share one more. You share one more. I'm going to say it. Be an optimist. I have I am the proverbial optimist, but I'll tell you what, people want to be part of a positive, proactive, optimistic team.
Never, ever, ever, unless it is a severe emergency, cancel a coaching session. When you cancel a coaching session, to Mark's point, what you don't say is something on my calendar became more important than you. And that speaks volumes to the people that you're coaching.
Love it. Love it. Hey, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, hey, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark. Oh, by the way, I'm Mark Hunter. I should say that, right? Yeah. Hey.
And I'm Meridith Elliott, Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. Join us right here, noon on Wednesday, for a special edition of Sales Logic. We're going to do a solid hours of everything that you need to know about process, systems, sales leadership. And then join us right back here next Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Sales Logic. We'll see you then.